titled 5 Steps to a Digital Strategy. This is the first session of a 3-part webinar series. If you've not already done so, please feel free to call in the phone audio portion. The dial-in numbers are located just underneath the screen on your first tab under 5 Steps to a Digital Strategy. The numbers and passcodes are referenced accordingly. My name is Bernadette Rojas, and I am your host for today. I'm a Senior International Trade Specialist at the U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. Commercial Service in Fresno, California. Today's presentation is being brought to you by my colleagues who are also on the call, Ms. Cynthia Torres, and our speaker for today, Mr. James Bledsoe. Both are from the E-Commerce Innovation Lab. The lab is an office within the U.S. Commercial Service, which focuses on advancing the expertise and knowledge of cross-border e-commerce and digital strategy among all small and medium-sized businesses. Now, a couple of items before we get started. Be sure you're connected to both your telephone and online WebEx platform to view the presentation. All telephone lines are muted for the entirety of today's webinar. The recording and PowerPoint will be sent to all participants no later than Friday. We will have a Q&A session at the conclusion of this presentation, so please feel free to type your questions in the chat box at any time throughout this presentation. If there's not enough time to address your questions, we will gather all questions and populate the answers and send them along with the presentation by Friday. If you experience any technical difficulties during our presentation today, please press *0 at any time for assistance. So I'd like to take a moment to inform those who are new to the Commercial Service. We are the trade and investment arm of the United States federal government, a division of the International Trade Administration under the U.S. Department of Commerce. Our mission is to promote U.S. exports, protect U.S. interests abroad, and facilitate foreign direct investment into the United States. With more than 1,300 employees assisting U.S. exporters, selling their products and services, we have offices all around the world. Domestically, we have about 100 offices, and internationally, about 115 in 75 countries located at the embassies and consulates. I'd like to quickly share some information about our remaining webinar series. Session 2 is scheduled to take place on Wednesday, June 17th, and will focus on overcoming digital roadblocks. Session 3 concludes on Wednesday, June 24th, and will discuss the e-commerce channel mix. Both are at 11 a.m. Pacific, so please be sure to register if you've not already done so. Now, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our dynamic featured speaker. Based out of Tacoma, Washington, I'm honored and privileged to introduce Director of the U.S. Commercial Service Innovation Lab, Mr. James Bledsoe. James is a U.S. Air Force veteran and holds a master's degree in international relations from the University of Washington's Jackson School of International Studies, where his focus was China's heavy and light industries and market access. James also holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science and China Studies from Washington State University. At this time, please help me welcome James. James, thank you for your service. You may begin.
Thank you, Bernadette. That was a great introduction. I appreciate that, and I'm flattered. Good morning, everybody. Today, I'm sorry, I'm trying to click forward here. There we go. Apologies. Today's agenda, we're going to be talking about the 5 steps to digital strategy. So first, we'll be covering the e-commerce markets overview, followed by the actual 5 steps of what the digital strategy comprises, and then we'll wrap up with some free online resources to help you along in your own digital strategy. But before we begin, I'd also like to highlight the fact that for many of you, there's varying perspectives on what e-commerce is to you individually based on how you're approaching it. For your awareness, our office does approach this as a sales channel that crosses all industries. It's a method of sales. So I'd like to highlight that before we get too far along. I'd also like to highlight how e-commerce is changing business to business online. Here we can see some infographics from some recently purchased reports that shows that manufacturers are actually leading sales in e-commerce year over year, followed by the wholesalers. And so really, a lot of the e-commerce that is not seen is in this industrial and B2B space. So what does this business-to-business e-commerce sales flow look like? Well, we have this graph here provided by another report that we purchased that shows the manufacturer here on the far left, and that is the prime provider of the materials, who sells then to the distributor and the wholesaler, who sells to the retail business, who ultimately sells to the consumer. And right there, that retail to consumer, that is that B2C that everybody traditionally thinks of when they think of e-commerce. But what they're not really noticing is the whole other downstream of e-commerce happening vis-a-vis the retail business needing to find a wholesaler or distributor to buy from, and same with the distributor and wholesaler needing to find a manufacturer of goods or materials. How are they finding these businesses? Well, more and more online culture is creeping into business and making it definitely at the forefront of being found for these sales. So the online portion has a lot to play in business today that I don't think a lot of folks realize. Here on this graph, I've taken U.S. Census data of the value of e-commerce shipments by NAICS classification code and shown them year over year, 2016 versus 2017. Now, I know these figures are a little bit old, but this is the most recent data as per put out by Census when they first started collecting the data. So it is very much the freshest data out there. And I'd like to highlight to everybody here, you can obviously see that the transportation and equipment manufacturing doing a lot of online sales, chemical manufacturing doing a lot of online sales, and food manufacturing doing a lot of online sales via the NAICS codes as identified. What's significant about this is if you look in on the lower numbers there towards the bottom of the bar graph and you see apparel manufacturing and textile product mills and leather and allied product manufacturing, these areas right here I like to compare to the size and scope of B2C. So when everybody thinks e-commerce, you're really only looking at that size, and we're not taking into consideration the full scope of the digital economy with B2B included, which is all the rest of this, to include machinery, transportation equipment, you name it. So what are these 5 steps to a digital strategy? Well, first, most businesses will say, why do I even need a digital strategy? And hopefully more and more as time goes by, that answers itself because this digital strategy more and more is identified by the experts out there as an essential step that is often overlooked by businesses and is often what drives their inability to concretely derive a return on investment from what they're spending on their websites and business endeavors online. So we'll go through in detail what these 5 steps are over the next few minutes, but outlining them, it's first off, starting with your objectives and strategy. From there, you'll need to do some search engine optimization to your website as part of step 2. After that, the search engine optimization, you'll need to examine your internal needs around back-end digital infrastructure. And by that, I mean if you need some service provider to work on the code of your website, if you require a digital marketer, payment gateway software, anything could be identified through as a need through this search engine optimization process that you then address in step 3 in examining your back-end needs. After which you would want to choose the correct channel mix, which we'll get into detail about. And you'll also want to establish what's called KPIs, or key performance indicators. And this is actually to benchmark whether or not your sales are coming from your website and whether or not your efforts are effective or not. So the first step here in defining your objectives and strategy, you want to determine if you are having a purely informational or transactional online presence with your website. And to better explain that in an analogy, I would say similar to industrial agricultural equipment or motor vehicles. You're not necessarily going to go to a large manufacturer, automotive manufacturer, and purchase the car necessarily fresh off the factory from that website. But what you are going to do is go to that website and learn about that product and find out follow information for a distributor as part of that sales process, as opposed to selling directly from your website as a transaction. And so why that's important is because your resources, your target market and audience, and competitor analysis all will vary in factors to varying degree depending upon whether or not you are selling or informing leading to a sale on your website. Once you have a basic good direction for your strategy and how you want to go about doing it, you also need to take a baseline of your online presence. Search engine optimization, for better or worse, serves for that baseline for the majority of businesses out there. Search engine optimization is the ability of your website to be found by the search bots online when they're searching for you. And so what you're doing is optimizing not for humans, me, the person searching, but rather the mathematical algorithm, the robot on the other end that's looking for information. And we'll get into the details here in a couple slides of what that actually the next slide, I'm sorry, of what that process actually looks like. So usually this slide's animated, but it's not for this presentation. So here in the top left, you can see the web animation there representing the World Wide Web. And in there you have Google and Yahoo and MSN and Bing, Ask, all as search engines on this World Wide Web. Each one of these search engines to the right of it has what's called a web crawler or a search spider or an algorithm, many names for it, but basically it's a long line of code of mathematical algorithms that the desired end result is to gather information. And so what these crawlers do is go out constantly now and index every page of every website on the internet. And what they're looking for and creating is just like this little library index card in the bottom middle of the screen there. They're looking for that information about your website, what's on there, why is it important. So when they bring that information back, they're not actually showing your website, but rather the index card that crawler found when you're showing up on the search page. And so the whole key to search engine optimization is getting the information needed for that robot for that index card. Now, this information takes a lot of forms and can be fairly tricky when doing a search engine optimization audit on your website. So here you have the information for the website. The crawler will visit it and it'll see a picture of a tree. Now, this web crawler doesn't know what a tree is. It doesn't know what a picture is. All it sees is right below here an image alt code. And so if Say, for instance, you're a web developer or you didn't instruct a web developer to put that description of keywords rather than just image 001, or mostly a lot of businesses have this blank on the back end in their code. The web crawler doesn't know that that's a tree unless it reads in the keywords here that it's a Western Douglas fir softwood tree used in the building industry. So that, in a nutshell, is how search engine optimization works. You're not doing bells and whistles on your website. You're organizing the information and making sure the code on the back end is appropriate and in order for this little guy right here. So he can bring information and present it to the searchers when they are down here on the search page results. For those of you who are wondering, how do I go about doing search engine optimization for my website? Well, there are 1,000,001 service providers out there and 1,000,001 cures and 1,000,001 solutions. All of them are great. They all accomplish the same thing. It's all what meets your needs. But we do have our own search engine optimization service called the Website Globalization Review Gap Analysis. I know it's a mouthful, but it's exactly what it says towards the end of the title. It is a gap analysis. And what it's doing is focusing on SEO best practices and internationalizing your website, and provides a technical and strategic evaluation of your website from not only a search engine optimization view, but also an international marketing and sales perspective, the human element that is often left out of search engine optimization-centric reports. With these reports, we use two search engine optimization web crawl tools. For those who are curious, we use Moz and SEO Site Checkup. And through the combination of these two tools, we provide you a comprehensive readout of all the mechanical errors, such as metadata issues, keyword issues, and backlink issues that directly affect your ability to be found online and are directly affecting your online sales results. If you can't be found, you can't make a sale. This service, more information can be found on trade.gov. Just simply search WGR on the site, or Website Globalization Review Gap Analysis, and you can find more information on how to sign up for it. I would like to advertise that for small and medium-sized businesses now, the services have fees have been changed, so please check with your local trade specialist on those service fee changes. So the first two steps we covered were defining your objectives and your strategy, and then doing some sort of search engine optimization to ensure your website is operating properly. The third step here is investing in your back-end digital infrastructure with an SEO report, whether or not it's our gap analysis review of your website or a private sector search engine optimization report. There are going to be errors identified. You're going to need to fix issues. There will be problems that are beyond your ability to fix in-house, most likely. There are a few exceptions. So you'll need to go seek a service provider. And here we see, I know this is a bit of an old snapshot from 2016 of what businesses are actually investing in. But to give you an idea, the majority of the folks, businesses out there that are doing search engine optimization efforts, they're working on their e-commerce platform. And by that, that's the actual software that hosts your website. That's, that's your Squarespace site, that's your WordPress site, your Mozu, your Magento, whoever your service provider is. It's investing in integrating more software into that, increasing features or abilities, something to that effect, followed by purchasing of further software. And by that, we're talking about integrating inventory in with your online presence. And it goes on and on from there. But those are the two main things that businesses are really digging into and identifying that they're having areas for need to improve upon. Once you've got an idea of what needs to be fixed and who's going to fix it, and hopefully somebody's fixing those issues, you're now ready to focus on how you're going to sell online. And so now we come to the e-commerce sales channel mix portion of the digital strategy, step 4, choosing the mix. And so the e-commerce sales channel is actually comprised of 4 sub-channels that we've identified. The first, obviously, is your own website. The second is social media. And the third is online marketplaces, with the fourth, and I know I said that out of order, the fourth being a third-party in-country distributor. And the element of e-commerce in that is that that in-country distributor selling for you overseas is conceivably selling online through their website that is locally search engine optimized in that market that you don't have to do yourself. So what are the pros and cons of the e-commerce sales channel? Well, here on this 4-grid chart here, you can see here in the top left your website. There you get to own the full data and design of what goes on, for the most part, on your website. And you also get control over the pricing. You're not held to any marketplace sales or distributor sales or requirements. However, the drawback to having a website is you must always and regularly do search engine optimization to some degree on your website. Just like taking it to a mechanic once a year or something to that effect, you want to do regular search engine optimization checks on your website to make sure it's still operating correctly from when you last left it. And to accomplish all of this success, it will require service providers to get involved in building your website and providing more functionality to your prospective clients. Another e-commerce sales channel is social media. It's a great way to build a brand following. You can connect directly with consumers. For the B2B side, LinkedIn and Twitter, I would imagine, would be the best channels for social media. But again, whatever fits your particular product, your brand, and your industry and works for you is generally the advice we have for social media. It also boosts your website search engine optimization because you should be having your own URL on your social media page and featuring your own products, redirecting visitors to your website for a purchase. The drawback on this, however, is that results vary wildly. It varies from the consumer demographic you're selling to the platform, to the news today, to the news tomorrow. And so nothing's really guaranteed on social media. It's but an effective sales channel nonetheless. Online marketplaces, those are good for allowing you to reach more consumers, and they also boost website search engine optimization because through your marketplace storefront, you should be able to connect to your website and redirect visitors there to learn more about your brand or your business, or to find other products that may not be featured on the marketplace specifically. However, the drawbacks to that, the service interoperability varies wildly across marketplaces. And in addition to finding more consumers, you'll also be there with lots of competition. You'll also have lack of control over any consumer data as far as who's visiting your storefront, so you really won't have much eyes as far as analytics goes on that. The fourth sales channel I'd like to highlight is the third-party in-country distributor. Again, I mentioned it allows you to quickly and cheaply establish a brand presence there in market. It also boosts your website search engine optimization because your distributor there in country should be saying, hey, look at this American company we are featuring here in our country, link back to your website, and you should be saying, hey, look at our distributor in this country if you want to buy from us. And that way, you are both boosting your search engine optimization. So a lot of you may be wondering, well, that's great. How do I find a distributor, a quality distributor that would be interested in this and be able to help me piggyback and get into that market quickly? Well, we have two services for the commercial service. We have the International Partner Search and the Gold Key Matchmaking service that I'd like to highlight that are available there for U.S. businesses where you will work with a local trade specialist in your state and will coordinate and help identify interested distributors and partners in country for you. So if you are interested in that, you may visit the links there below or contact your local trade specialist. So now we come to the last step of the digital strategy, step 5. So the first step to review, we were defining our objectives, whether or not we were selling from the website, what we have in assets, generally just planning things out. Step 2, we were doing search engine optimization to get a general baseline, a general health of our online operations. Step 3 was then investing in the areas we identify that are lacking in our website and online presence by investing in our back-end digital infrastructure. And step 4 was choosing the correct e-commerce sales channel mix based on market research and our own analytics. Now, related to that is key performance indicators, establishing key performance indicators. Both determining your e-commerce sales channel mix via your website analytics and establishing KPIs depend on the analytics of your website. It's the visitors who come by, who click on items on your website, visit links, and generally give you an idea of who's visiting. This helps to give you a dashboard of all the interactions that's going on for your business online. And so it's very important, if you do not have analytics set up, to get analytics set up. It's very easy to do. There's a very big service provider out there that I'm not going to mention that has a very free online analytics program that you should definitely download, but it will give you eyes on what's going on. And that'll help you understand the volume of visitors. However, you'll still need to be able to demonstrate your actual value. And so we've got the actual key performance indicators we'd like to start sharing with you that are industry standards. And so with these key performance indicators, you'll take your online analytics and your sales figures and combine those to come up with a conversion rate, a sales conversion rate, and a digital marketing return on investment figure that'll help you benchmark and determine whether or not service was worth it or not. So it really is empowering to you as the business owner, the website owner, to really look into this. It'll definitely allow you to have more ownership over your online directions and will allow you to make better strategic decisions. So we covered the 5 steps of that digital strategy, and they seem fairly simple, but how can you get started with that? What resources are available out there to you to really dig down and get into developing your own digital strategy? Well, the commercial service has digital strategy counseling. And this was developed out of early studies. As you can see down there, the source of a Statista study several years back identified, and several other studies since have reinforced this, that the number one issue out there for businesses is that there's just a general lack of a digital strategy and the know-how that a digital strategy exists and should be used and how to go about it. So we developed this counseling process and have been training our trade specialists over the last several years to really take a focused approach, a step-by-step approach, in helping guide you to making the most preferred options that are in your best interest in the online sales channels. Following that, these studies have also said that lack of awareness of e-commerce service providers, the fact that the professional services offered, what are they, who should we approach? That was another issue that was identified as a major barrier and block to businesses wanting to grow their online sales. And so we have an e-commerce business service provider directory that we've developed where our office does outreach through our client counseling to identify service providers out there who can also help our clients in their online needs identified with the gap analysis and digital strategy counseling. I would be remiss if I also didn't mention that the U.S. Commercial Service can help with the other main issues out there associated with selling online that may or may not be known to the majority of people selling online, such as identifying non-tariff barriers. Are those of you out there aware that you could be facing non-tariff barriers by way of unfair taxes levied against you? And did you know that you can approach your local trade specialist for free and say, hey, I think I might have a non-tariff barrier where they're levying unfair taxes against me in the port of XYZ. Can you help me look into that? And that is something that we've been doing for many, many years. We also have shipping and logistics counseling that we provide is our normal bread and butter for decades, as well as payment solution providers, although these traditional payment service providers are now looking at the online channel. So it still fits in our traditional wheelhouse. Further resources for you, market research. So again, an essential part of the digital strategy in determining what you're doing and how you're going to sell your products online through your e-commerce sales channels is you have to understand how consumers are buying your products online. So market research would be an intelligent thing to do, obviously. So we have a lot of free market research on trade.gov under researching foreign markets there. You can see on the tab on the screenshot. But we have a wealth of information and resources for you to study up on your own should approaching a trade specialist just not feel right for you at this moment. Further online resources in the vein of e-commerce specifically, we have trade.gov/e-commerce, where you can explore our e-commerce resources created by the E-commerce Innovation Lab. There you'll learn about the e-commerce sales channels, the different steps for the digital strategy if you'd like a refresher. We have links to our e-commerce business service provider directory if you're looking for a service provider, videos, as well as contacts to your local trade specialist if you'd like somebody to help you and help guide you through this oftentimes confusing process. There's also e-commerce videos located on our website, easily found there, that cover the main topics covered by today's webinar. They go further in detail into search engine optimization, choosing the right e-commerce sales channel mix, how to build your digital brand abroad, e-commerce payments, as well as e-commerce shipping videos. So feel free to check those out, all free resources available on trade.gov. Focusing in on this last resource here, I'd like to bring your attention to the e-commerce business service provider directory. I've mentioned it several times in the previous slides, and here's what it looks like when you visit the page itself. There are 8 categories on there that we've organized the service providers into, ranging from digital marketing to e-commerce legal and regulatory, on down to back-end technology. So as you're working in your digital strategy and you go, who can help us manage all of our sales channels across multiple countries? Well, I'm sure there's a business service provider on our e-commerce BSP who can help you with that, because I know for a fact there is. Who can help with translating our website when we finally get to that last step and want to localize our website there in market? Who can help translate that? Where do we find a service provider for that? Here on the e-commerce BSP. You know, our website globalization review, gap analysis, is a fantastic SEO tool. but who can do a deeper dive and actually get you those keywords that are identified you're lacking, and who can help you with an analytics program that stretches over months to really bring value to your online sales. That would be a digital marketing SEO professional from our e-commerce business service provider directory. So it really would behoove you, if you do have a need for a service provider, to check that out and see who's available there. And if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to reach out to your local trade specialist. With that, I'd like to open the floor to questions and pass it to the baton to Bernadette. And thank you for your time.
Thanks, James. Thanks. That was such an excellent presentation. The information is very timely and extremely relevant. We'd also like to take a moment to share some information about the State Trade Expansion Program. It's called STEP. It is actually funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration. And this phenomenal program, what it does is it works together between the U.S. Business Administration and selected states throughout the United States to provide a financial grant a matching grant to the states along with the Small Business Administration so that they can help small and medium-sized companies with their export development. And so what's fantastic about this as an exporter is that these are obviously grants that you don't have to pay back. And so what it does is it'll help a U.S. company either strategize about learning how to export, to maybe you need to have some reimbursements because you want to participate in a trade show overseas, or maybe how do I even attract, like through website development, how do I attract more foreign buyers to my website, to the website translation, search engine optimization. There's actually quite a few other things that are eligible, but it does vary state by state. And these reimbursement amounts are traditionally set by a fiscal year. And so what we do is we'd like to review the link that's available on the slide. And again, these presentations will be sent out to everyone, but you'll be able to go to sba.gov STEP, and you should be able to find out more information. So again, we thank you so much. We hope that the presentation provided some solid foundation as a starting point or tips to further analyze your digital strategy. And as James mentioned, if you're not working with the Commercial Service Office or local trade specialist, the 2016 export.gov/offices link, by providing your zip code, you'll be able to find out the contact detail information for an office in your area. Or you can reach out to any one of us, and we're happy to make introductions. So now, let's go ahead and go to our question and answer portion of the webinar. We've got about another 15 minutes or so. So Cynthia, do you see any questions through the chat?
Hi, thanks, Bernadette. Yes, and I apologize. I'm having some small technical difficulties, but there is one question that I was in the course of responding to one of the participants. They were asking if we could repeat a little bit about the fee structure for the Website Globalization Service itself. If you want to speak to that, or I'm happy. I'll just tell everybody right now the fees were originally $100 for small companies, at $300 or $200 for a medium-sized company. Misquoting here because I don't have it in front of me. And I think the top price was $400 for a large company. We recently, due to the COVID-19, we are supporting our small businesses by waiving these fees temporarily until September for the small and medium-sized companies, and we've cut it by 50% for large companies. Additional questions we've already addressed. We had one question that came in mentioning that they weren't aware that we also address non-tariff barriers. Just for the group, yes, we are part of the International Trade Administration. So if you are encountering trade barriers of any kind, both tariff-related and non-tariff, we're happy to assist you. Again, we can put you in touch with your local office or work it through our channels, and we'll get you in touch with the right individuals to assist you. That's non-tariff barriers. I don't have any additional questions at the moment in the chat. Here's a couple coming in. Just applied for the STEP. Do you become a member with these fees? We don't have any sort of required membership per se. What we do require is that you are a U.S. company with your products being 51% American-made products and services. And then we're happy to work with you. Again, we are part of the U.S. government, taxpayer funded, so our job is to assist and target U.S. companies in helping you broaden your exports around the world. And certainly these days, making the pivot to the online channel is of importance to everyone. If you want to utilize any of our export-related services, we have an entire listing of those services on our website at www.trade.gov. Beyond the website globalization service we're discussing right now, there are other services that we offer. Primarily, our most broadly used one is the Gold Key service, Gold Key matching service, where we can assist you in identifying in-country distributors for your products. And again, the important pivot point for everybody to be aware of here is getting in touch with your local U.S. Export Assistance Center in your community, in your city, and we do have a link right there on the page. Oh, I'm sorry, that's for the STEP fund. But if you email us, and I believe in the slide deck earlier, there may have been a link. If you go to trade.gov, you'll be able to contact us, click on the Contact Us link, and identify where your local office is. We have somebody that is confirming and validating that our Gold Key matching service is an excellent service and very great service that they've used in the past. Many exporters are looking to grow and diversify their sales into other countries, and this service is essential. So thank you for that testimonial there, and we hope others are interested to take part in that. And we are adapting all of our services to be more virtually delivered these days. Can you please email us the presentation later? Yes, Bernadette, I think you were going to be sending that out by the end of the week. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. I also have a question here. How could we get approval or reimbursement for site translation on SEO with STEP or other programs? I'm not sure what state the person was located in for that question, but you first need to reach out to your state administrators for the STEP grant, and then they will guide you through the process. I'm sure each state has its own application process. And I know in the state of California where I'm located, they are very eager to assist companies with utilizing the STEP funding to support your digital transformation and the optimization of your website. And I believe the same case with the recent conversations out of the state of Oregon, and I'm sure many other states across the country are also making this move to support small businesses. So start with that link there to find the right point of contact in your state for your STEP access points and your points of contact. Can we get reimbursements for trade shows inside the U.S. or even online? I do not know the answer to that. I think under pre-COVID, the United States is not, it's mainly used to help advance export. Although, don't hold me to that. I don't know. I'm not a STEP administrator. But again, I would just refer you to their offices, and they very well may cover that for all I know. The fees mentioned is to develop a website. The fees that we've been talking about here with respect to the website Globalization Review, that is one of our official services, and that is a search engine optimization service, which currently for small and medium-sized companies is temporarily being offered free of service. It's a good starting point. It gives you a snapshot. We do use web crawlers to give you that insight about your own performance, as well as our institutional review and knowledge from a foreign buyer perspective about your website. Let's see. I'm sorry, I just skipped over. We already have a website. We need to translate it to different languages. We do have a growing e-commerce business service provider directory that if you go to trade.gov/e-commerce, that is our main landing page on trade.gov, and on that site you will see a number of resources that James outlined. On the right-hand upper portion of the page, you will see a link that will take you directly into our e-commerce service provider directory, and then click on digital marketing. And if you need language translation services, you can begin your due diligence and your outreach there. And we're getting more service providers interested in joining this directory as well. It's an easy trusted source for you, a nice pivot point so you can begin that outreach and identification of who you might want to do business with. Go through MD Export. I'm not sure what that question is related to. Maybe follow up with us after, or we'll reach out to you. If you're selling direct individual consumers abroad via your own U.S. website, how do you arrange export documentation and customs clearance plus duties? Excellent question. And again, I know next week we're going to have a speaker on the presentation speaking specifically about some of these duty quoting landed costs and what their tools can do. But you do still want to probably utilize, if you're not accustomed to doing documentation yourself, if you're already exporting and using a freight forwarder, you would want to engage with them on how best to process those, because now you're talking about the fulfillment piece of your shipments, and you still have to go through the same steps there. And you want to always be able to figure out what the duty rates are. And we will have somebody speaking specifically about some of these duty rate challenges with our speaker from Eurobat next week. Okay. Let me see. Just scanning really quickly for any last questions. Yeah, that's the last question that I see in the chat box. Is there time for maybe opening up the lines for any over the phone?
Well, Cynthia, I see one here in front of me as well. Someone's asking how they become a service provider with us.
Oh, great. Thanks for asking that question. Again, you can go on to the e-commerce BSP, or I'm sorry, the trade.gov/e-commerce. On that same BSP site, we have a link for you as a service provider where you can apply, register, fill out the form, and then we will be in touch with you to follow up and have a conversation and learn a little bit more about you. And we will tell you a little bit more about how the program works and then go through the onboarding process. So just go to that trade.gov/e-commerce, click on the BSP, and then complete the registration.
And Cynthia, it's Bernadette. I believe everyone should be able to see that I have included the direct links to our local office, the BSP, and then also first steps so that you could click on to find out where you can get a local contact from your state.
That's great.
I do see one question here, and this will probably be maybe addressed for James. I have a question that says, are you aware of in-country social media partners that aren't also distribution partners? And then the second part of that is that they're interested in an in-country SEO social media partner only. James, do you think you might be able to address that?
I myself do not know of any specifically in-country service providers. I think the best route to find that information out and find a in-country service provider would be to contact our overseas post and liaise with them to find out who those service providers would be in that specific market, because it would vary from country to country.
Yeah, Bernadette is Cynthia. I would just add to that question specifically, It's an excellent question, and it's one that's starting to come up more and more as companies actually are targeting foreign markets via the online channel. And yes, we would make contact with the Overseas Post, but the best place to start, again, is with your local U.S. Export Assistance Center to make contact with your local trade specialist, because even before we reach out to the Overseas Post, we're going to want to learn a little bit more about what your current level of engagement is in the online channel so that we can brief our colleagues overseas accordingly. But excellent question. So I will also say that we have around the globe, different people that are at various levels of engagement right now in the online channel. So the more we know up front, the better we can help direct and assist. Any other question? I see. What do you suggest for someone who isn't exporting and just looking into getting into this field? How can you go and get started? I guess that depends on what exactly you're looking to focus on. So if you're just interested in how to get started selling online, I think if you go to, there's all of the big tech companies have in-person, or I guess not these days, but they have workshops for learning more about their online tools, especially if you're thinking of selling on Amazon, or they have a Amazon Sellers University. They've got PayPal has online tools as well, and Google also does workshops on how to educate merchants about their products. So it depends entirely about what you're looking to accomplish to get into this field.
Also, if I may add, this is Bernadette. For someone who isn't exporting but wants to get into it, a lot of great partners of ours, such as the Centers for International Trade, small business development centers that are funded by part of the U.S. Small Business Administration, also excellent in starting up like Export 101 programs on what do you need to do to get export ready. And then at export.gov, we do have our own, it's called a Basic Guide to Exporting. If you Google that as well, and I can include a direct link for that, but that's a phenomenal book for anybody who wants to start from the beginning. What do I need to do? And it's a wonderful tool to utilize to help you get into exporting.
Thank you, Bernadette. That was an excellent point. We have another question asking to repeat the fee structure for e-commerce assistance. So with the U.S. Commercial Service and the E-commerce Innovation Lab, we currently are in we've just reduced our fee structure in support of small businesses temporarily until September of 2020. So for the Website Globalization Service, if you are a small and medium-sized company, and we'll determine that after we're talking with you, it's based on your NAICS code and the volume of sales that you have. The service will be free until September. If you are a large company, then the service has been cut by 50%, previously $400 and now $200. Let's see, any other questions? I don't see any other questions, Bernadette, or do you?
Okay. Nope, I don't. Let's see here. So if there aren't any other questions, as I mentioned, thank you so much for everyone participating and taking time. If you haven't registered for our next session 2 and 3, please, that's loaded on the screen. Please go ahead and register if you've not already done so. I believe that concludes our presentation for today. Again, we'll be sending out the recorded version as well as the presentations by this Friday. So again, thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day and stay well.
This concludes today's conference. All lines may disconnect at this time. Speakers, please stand by.